Talk Shoes.
Recorded live.
Good morning and good day, everyone. This is Jeff Grant, and I'm going to be filling in today for BJ or Barbara Sadler. She's traveling at the moment over in Europe, I believe, and she's going to be unable to join us on today's live call. She'll, of course, be checking in later, though. We take all these talk shoe downloads and re-upload them to YouTube with some visuals after each one, usually within 24 hours. So be sure to check out the Mayan Cross YouTube channel and subscribe to it if you'd like to get the content that way. Today's guest is actually Jamie Johnson. She's married to Josh, who had spoken on the Tihash Day a little while ago, and she's going to be sharing with us what it is like to be a net. So Jamie, would you like to talk a little bit about yourself? And she's also going to lead our invocation for today.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, first let's just ground and center ourselves. Maybe take a few deep breaths or light a candle and feel connected. And as we do that, I will say the Kiche prayer. Give you a few moments to get that ready. Okay. We ask that the heart of the heavens, the heart of the earth, the heart of the wind, the heart of the water, and the heart of the fire be with us now as we join together in this moment, forming a network to share in this ancient wisdom which has been passed down through millennia by the Maya grandmothers and grandfathers and kept alive through the oral tradition. Allow us to open our hearts and feel the presence of the first grandparents and our ancestors as we ask for their wisdom and receive their guidance. Thank you, Ahau, for the Nawal Hunkat oneness.
That was great.
And I guess...
Do you want to talk a bit about yourself and introduce yourself?
Yeah, like you said, I'm married to Josh, who's a Flint, and we have 2 children. My number is 7, and which I guess has been likened to being at the top of the pyramid.
Yes, I think it is. And then the other steps go down from there.
That definitely resonates. I've felt that because sometimes you can feel confused as to what to do because you can see all sides and they all seem valid.
Interesting. Almost like you're on the top of the mountain and you could head down any other direction you wanted.
Yeah, I can see that manifest itself through me. And my son is the same sign, and through him especially, he's very confused. He doesn't know what he wants to do sometimes.
What number is he?
He's 7 also. He's
7, okay.
So him and I are the exact same day and sign.
That's awesome. Well, the net, I'm going to read a little bit of what BJ has written on the MayanCross.com about net. Some of it's interesting. One of the first things she says is that net always conjures up the image of fishermen casting a net from small wooden boats with volcanoes in the background on Lake Atitlan. And I've actually been there and seen that, which is an interesting image. And it's, like you said, from the mountaintop, seeing all the different directions, it's a position and a place where you can't, when you do figure out where to go, you never know what the path is going to lead to. Casting the net kind of has that uncertainty to it. BJ writes that the fisherman in that analogy never really knows if he's going to get a bounty or garbage out of casting that net. And I actually think it is very funny, unfortunately, today, because those fishermen still do exist on Lake Atitlan. I was just there at the 12/12/2012 and 12/21/12 celebrations, and I was actually there for New Year's, and it's a total clash of ancient and modern. You've got the people who are into politics and business in Guatemala who have their speedboats and their modern luxury homes on Lake Atitlan, and then you've got still the ancient Mayans who wash their clothes, who bathe there, and who go out in wooden dugout canoes and cast old fishing nets and fish in that old way.
That is amazing. That would be amazing to see.
It is an amazing sight to see. It's similar to national parks and stuff in America. You see the clash of the worlds because you see some trash, modern trash floating in the lake and stuff, and then you see these ancient people using it, from the same way that they have for centuries or thousands of years. So.
It's beautiful that they still continue their traditions regardless of the new age that has come in.
Yeah, and you know what? They are. I was down by the lakeside and swimming off the same docks that a lot of these Mayan families would go and wash their clothes from and swim from and all that with the other people we were traveling with. And they are very happy. They're wonderful people. They come down to wash their clothes, and if you're already on the dock, they go down to the next one. And so it's really a great area to be in and experience at some point in your life.
That is, and that was exactly where at now?
Lake Atitlan, which is in Guatemala.
Lake Atitlan.
There's a few different cities and communities around Lake Atitlan where there's a lot of day keepers and a lot of holistic healing centers and other things along that path that if you're into that kind of stuff, it's just a heaven for you. Specifically, I was in San Marcos, and that's one of the best spots to be. It's really quaint, quiet, and there's just a lot of holistic healing centers and places like that there.
That's a dream of my husband and I, to go down there and visit and talk with people that's been in their family for years and years. We'd love to do that.
Yeah, I would definitely. Lake Atitlan should be on your list then to check out when you go.
Well, it's on there now.
Good, excellent. So she also says that, let me see here. On net days, we call for blessings for the healthy development of our children, pregnant mothers, and the community. Net can help us untie the strings that bind us in negativity and vices. Do you have anything to say to that? I think you probably do with some of the stuff we had talked about before.
Oh, absolutely.
Go ahead.
I do find myself, people, especially other ladies, women, I find will be drawn to me for some reason or another, and I can feel, that they have something that's blocking them or tying them down, and I know I've played a specific, very, prominent role in a few lives that I can think of right now where, one woman in particular, she was had really kind of chosen the lifestyle of drinking and drugs over her child, and her child didn't talk to her for many, many years, and I helped reconnect them, I helped her to overcome her fear of just saying something to her daughter, and she made the first move, and her daughter now have a connection.
Wow.
So,
how old were they when you helped them finally reconnect?
The woman, she was older. She was in her 50s, and she hadn't talked to her daughter for almost 17 years.
Whoa, that's quite a void.
Yes, and they've been connected, and they see each other, at holidays and stuff now. But
that's really great.
That
good
was
good karma for you.
Yes, yay for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats.
It used to make me feel bad because these women, that was one instance, but these women would come into my life and I think I'd have a new friend, but by the time I'd help them get over an obstacle in their life, we'd kind of just, our friendship or relationship would kind of disintegrate. And I kept thinking, man, what's the matter with me? But then once my husband got turned on to the Mayan traditions and started talking about them and telling me about them, I started realizing, okay, what he's reading has some weight to it, and so I started looking at what my Nawal was, and so it all just started fitting together. Then I realized that was part of what I was here for, was to help people, and so I don't let it have any negative. That comes with it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. In my experience, it was very easy to see the patterns. Codified, I guess, in a way, in the Mayan calendar. They start to really do pop out in your life. I kind of do pattern identification for a living, doing search engine optimization, and so it stands out to me too. But it's extraordinary when you start to work with the calendar, how you get the deeper understanding of the days, and then as you just spend your first 6 months or your first year starting to look at, what day is it today and what happened today, you do just start to see these patterns that you start to recognize frequently that have persisted your whole life. But it wasn't until something actually put a cycle to it and put names to it that you started to see, geez, this does come up really close to the same time every period change.
Absolutely. It can be mind-blowing at first. It's just like, oh, man. Because some people, critics, it's too broad, there's too much, but it's really not. They're very specific energies with each day.
You're right. And there is some broadness to it, absolutely. I noticed, I think people notice some of the small details first, but like when I'm laying in bed late at night, that's when I have the big profound stuff hit me where I go, oh my God, think about this. Remember that thing 5 years ago? And how, like a year ago it resurfaced, and then last week it just did that, and you go, and that's where it just dawns on you, and bigger pieces sometimes fall into place as well as the smaller stuff.
I love it. I love how it works out. And I love how you can see it in the lives of others, too, the energies of the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were saying a little bit, too, about, like, some of the growing kind of daycare kind of help and stuff like that through the community. Do you have anything to say maybe towards that also speaks to the net in your life?
Absolutely. I've always wanted to have be a part of a community. Growing up, I felt very apart from the community because I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm not saying anything bad about the Jehovah's Witnesses, but they exclude themselves purposefully from the world, and so that's what I was born into. So from a very early age, it was always kind of, well, we're no part of the world and this and that. So I always kind of wanted to feel community, and so now that I've gotten older and I have children, I want to make sure that they can feel that also, and so I help as far as I can with what's around me, and it usually falls to be women and children that need my help. And I love helping children grow, and I love helping the women who are trying to better themselves that need assistance. We live in a military town who a lot of times the husbands are gone for months at a time.
Yeah. And
so it's nice to be there and to help. And that's part of my abundance that I've learned to catch. I've learned to catch what I like.
And is it? Do you think that's because of the stark difference in the Jehovah's Witness exclusive upbringing, meaning they're excluding everyone else? They're cut off from everyone else. Does that
they do. It does. It's very different. I feel very spiritually. I feel much more mature and understanding. And from a very early age, Jehovah's Witnesses will go door to door and talk with you. So I've always been very open about talking spiritually and about world events and stuff like that. But it was more to just bring people to see my point of view. And now I really enjoy just listening to who's around me and listening to their point of view and how really it just kind of overlaps and not trying to find the differences between them and I.
I almost see a yin-yang effect to it. It's like you grew up in a very opposite situation, and so now you're pursuing the exact opposite of it and relishing in it in the way that maybe if it was you were dark then and you jump over to the light or something like that, or just that yin-yang opposite effect. You get a sense that fuels it?
Oh, yes. And I believe it's with my number also. In Kenneth Johnson's book, he talks about it being people under that number can be wrapped up in a religious
fanaticism, probably
yes.
As a whole, just because it's at the peak of the crest of the journey,
Right, and so that was very, prominent in my early years, and so yeah, I could definitely be rebelling against such closeness.
Right, interesting. Yeah, sensationalism of that kind of stuff can can seem to sweep everybody off their feet at certain times.
But I do think that it has helped me even more understand my sign and how I was really born into I was really born into something great, really, because our sign's, pretty spiritual. My son is very spiritual and takes his emotions and his feelings, which I think emotions can be quite spiritual too.
Absolutely. I personally think your emotions are kind of a window into the soul, and your rational mind is something that you just should use more to navigate the world in practical senses. Let your emotions guide you but not control you. They're clues. They're indicators, I think,
Absolutely. That's a great way of...
I've actually, in my personal life, if you take an extreme example where someone is deathly afraid of the ocean, the way I understand that is that there's a good chance, maybe, because I personally grew up went to the United Methodist Church for, till I was confirmed. And then my parents were like, well, now you can find your own way and all that. And I've pretty much never gone back to structured religion.
Right.
And in my sense, I've come to the conclusion that reincarnation is a very real thing. And I think that people's talents or fears or traumas resurface. And so when you have someone who is deathly afraid of the ocean or is just out of whack energetically, way in one direction, I look at I look at that and I go, I think something happened in a past life. Something's going on with their soul, and it starts to reflect in the patterns that they are living right now.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
And that was, for me, that was actually one of the biggest psychological changes of my life, was moving from this European Judeo-Christian heaven or hell fear box to a concept which is Eastern, more Eastern, at least from my perspective in this life, to reincarnation, which takes away all the fear, and it makes circumstances today way more easier to accept and deal with on a practical level, in my mind.
I agree, and I think intellectually, on a cognitive level, it makes sense too, because we see recycling in everything that is in our earth, the water cycle and the trees and everything just circulates itself. So why not our energies that we come into being with also? So yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I definitely like that, and I feel more it resonates,
Yep. Do you want to go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you want to talk about any of the specific practical things you and your family does in your spiritual practice, or specifically with the Mayan calendar and ceremonies and things like that? Because the little I've heard and the little I've seen about it, I think it's awesome. I know I've even got my parents here up in Oregon getting a fire ring for different things to be used here, and so I'm excited for that. Do you want to talk to that kind of stuff? Because I know you guys have done kind of a lot of ceremony versus most people in the West.
We do. My children love being involved in ceremony. A couple years ago, we did. It was difficult. We would separate. We would talk to the children about the Mayan calendar and about we'd let my daughter especially light her own calendar, because she's the water. So it's good for them to atone, every 20 days. So she would, make an offering and say a prayer on her day. But other than that, we just kind of kept it to just more telling them about the energy of the day and talking about what they could expect and what they need to watch out for, maybe as far as the energy goes. But a couple years ago, we decided that we were going to take them to the beach and do a ceremony. And they loved it, and they did really good. So since then, we've involved them, and they have their own part, and they offer their own prayer for the day. And a lot of times, my daughter's really quiet, but my son, he loves to talk about it, and he loves to pray and offer his blessings to How and to Mother Earth, and a lot of times. I think he knows it just as well as any adult that I know, because he'll ask for specific things according to each day, what to look out for. And I don't know if he just knows or if it's just creation coming through him, but it makes it beautiful. It's wonderful to see your kids
Yeah, kids are so sharp that they will see concepts and say things and do things that adults won't see sometimes.
And I think sometimes, like, well, maybe they heard us, but I don't know. Sometimes some of the stuff he comes up with, I'm just like, wow, that must have been creation just coming through.
Yeah.
This little
and
spirit.
so just so the audience knows, I mean, you want to talk about the practical steps of just going to the beach and maybe making a ceremony with a family, and or maybe versus like maybe or your backyard. I mean, I think you guys have a fire ring in your backyard, right?
Oh yeah, we where we live is not. Where we live in the town limits, you can have a little fire pit in your backyard, so we do. And we just gather flowers or stones. We've buried some stones and flowers and like fruits and stuff, depending on what time of year and whatnot. And we'll dig a hole and we'll provide our offering and get it ready, and we'll get our incense and our candles ready. And before we start our circle, we'll discuss with the kids, our intention and ask if they want to add any intention. And then we'll start, and we just Josh will usually walk us through it, and he'll start with a prayer, and then we just kind of allow Spirit to come through with whatever we each want to say or add for our blessing, and then it usually goes Josh and then me and then the kids how they wish to, and then Josh will close it out for us, and I don't know, we just light our incense and our candles and make our prayer. It's very it's very personalized to each day and to each season and what time we do it with, as far as what flowers or candles, or we usually have the traditional, the white and the yellow and the black and the red.
I think that's awesome. Thank you for telling us about that, because I think a lot of people probably don't know what the first steps are, or just haven't thought about, how to get started doing it on their own, or maybe they hesitate because they don't know if personalizing it like that is okay, in a sense.
Right. Yeah, I feel I've tried to do it, by the book from what I've heard or seen other people do, and I end up feeling kind of disconnected, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just kind of flying by the seat of your pants kind of is part of creation. It's like with the drum circles. I don't know if you've ever been to a drum circle, but they just everyone just plays music that comes to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the life force that we're celebrating. So,
what's interesting to your point on that is some of the drum circles I've seen or been to, the people who are drumming independently end up falling into rhythm together.
Yeah,
and that's really where everybody gets the chills that's there, and then the energy really kicks up a notch, is when you start to you see 2 or 3 or 4 of them come together, and then the whole group kind of gets onto the same page, and for a little while they're jamming.
Oh, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I've definitely been part of some extraordinary moments in music when that's happened.
It's very opening and spiritual.
Absolutely. And, a little bit back to your point, I personally, when people are like, well, I don't know about meditation, or I don't know about ceremony, or I don't know about this or that, to me, I actually liken it to when I was doing distance running as a kid. And I go, man, I never wanted to get up and go running. Nobody wants to get up and go for a 10-mile run in the heat in Illinois. And but you do it because of where it's going to get you and what it ultimately does for you. And even if you don't make it to 10 miles, getting up and running 1 mile is better than nothing.
And you feel better after you're done.
Exactly, you feel great. And even if you for me, it was also going to the gym. Like, even if I only got in there for 2 or 3 exercises, as long as I got in there, I wouldn't fall out of the pattern. And that was like half the battle. And so for me, I think that it's almost tragic that a lot of people are so hesitant to do any participation or start anywhere with even a first step in ceremony or meditation when it comes to primarily people in the West. Because I think any god or guru or saint or anything else is going to appreciate any effort in the right direction,
Oh, I agree.
As opposed to not doing anything because you don't know how it was officially done way back in the day or something like that,
And that can be likened to some of the New Age Christianity that's come too. There's been a lot of ceremony ritual that's like prayer, like in the Western world, prayers are recited over and over, like it's the same prayer, like
right.
And so that's what a lot of people are coming from. That's what they're used to is, well, this is what's written down for me, and I say it like this, and then I feel good.
Right.
And that's okay, but I think that they're expecting that with the Mayan tradition also, and that's just not. I don't believe that that's exactly how it is. While they do have some rituals that they do stick to, I do think that it's very personal.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I'm actually more cautious about rigid rituals. I feel like some trauma in my past life has involved things going out of whack, where I think traditions and rituals can lead to darker activities and darker actions if people aren't willing to let go of whatever, So I think it's absolutely a good thing to kind of bring in more free-spirited activities and things like that into people's rituals and ceremonies and things like that, to keep it positive and to keep it flowing and to keep it open to new information. Because I think anything that's exclusive or non-holistic, it's still a part of God or whatever in my spiritual world, but it's I think God is holistic, not partitioned off into a staunch, individual, rigid one way of doing anything.
I agree. And when you offer the same thing so much to spirit, it's just the same. That might not be, what you want to really pray about. And I feel like it might disconnect from God, from
yeah.
God and the source, instead of really making it real and making it personal. It makes it
right. And if you're sitting there saying, no, why isn't it like this? It's got to be like this. It has to be like this. You might literally miss what you were asking for because it was coming to you in a slightly different way than you expected it.
Oh, and that's beautiful. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Oh, so much, doesn't it? Because we take things, we're conditioned. We are absolutely conditioned in the West to take things literally and to think about the physical world, and that's it. There's a lot of there's a lot of gone spirituality that's not here, I think, that is more evident in places like Guatemala and other places like in the East.
Right. And the paying attention to the energy of the day allows you to connect, like you said, holistically on all levels with your body and your spirit. Because
it's not about going, oh, this is going to happen to me today. No. Like, this is the energy of the framework. Who knows what's going to happen to you?
Right. And I find that, like, a lot of times if I'm not in balance with myself, then, like, the body parts for the day can come into conflict. Like, if mentally I'm more negative, like for instance on a Akabal yesterday's day, its sign is the intestines, and so if my energy if I'm not in balance, I can see the energies of the day manifesting through the body parts for the day.
Interesting. You're very sensitive to it then. I've never actually experienced that. I'm curious.
And my son does some of that too. I don't know if it may be our sign or if I'm just paid attention to it more, but I've always been very interested in how it comes through our body, and I enjoyed listening when they were mapping out, teaching you how to map out your body through the joints. That's been a new thing I've been paying attention to. Whenever my joints hurt, I'm like, oh, what's the matter? What does that sign correlate to?
Yeah, I've always had a lot of, I think that a lot of the hidden truth throughout ancient history had to do with observations of the natural world, like the sun rising every day, providing warmth and that kind of stuff. So naturally it would be revered as a deity. The moon providing light at night, things like that. You could say the same thing. So it's interesting. I lost my train of thought there a little bit, but
that's okay. I agree. Natural rhythms have been taken away because, we save the sun's light so we can use it at nighttime to light our homes and heat our homes and stuff. So we have definitely been taken many steps away from nature. And so don't find it as mysterious either, because then once we do start thinking about nature, it's more in scientific terms.
Right. We're basically at peak materialism.
Right.
Which is the dearth of probably spiritualism or nature.
I had a thought, but I just lost it.
Had a couple of those. Let it flow when it comes. You could probably check in with the audience right now to see if anybody has any questions. We've got 5 or 10 people logged into the online chat. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask one now. Well, maybe there's no questions right now.
That's all good, too.
Yeah. Maybe it's just one of those days. Well, so what else? We covered.
There's abundant. This is something that I've noticed because my sign is related to abundance, like with the net or the web. You can catch things, like you said, in your net or web.
Mm-hmm.
As a child, I would always felt like I was caught in the middle of a bunch of mess, and it's usually because I was. But now I have learned how to stay away. I know my strengths and my weaknesses now, and in a more laid out form, from just studying the Mayan calendar. And so now I know what to stay away from. And I think that part of that knowledge helped me come into nutrition and being a holistic health counselor, because I took it to a negative place when I was younger. So, like with body image-wise and everything like that. So instead, after learning more about this and opening up, I took it to the other, the more healthy side, and looked more into nutrition and stuff like that. And that in itself is not just for your body image, but once you start eating healthier and being more active for yourself, it takes over your whole body. You feel better mentally and physically. And so learning when to cut out the negatives and learning where to set up my net is made it much easier to see the abundance in my life.
Yeah, that's funny. Going back to some notes that BJ has on her site about kat, or net, the seed, she says it's also thought of as the sacred fire that consumes what is no longer of benefit and changes it to that which does. So it's to your exact point, in your childhood you saw and experienced stuff that was a bit negative. However, through the sacred fire of time, it's been transformed into something quite positive. And that framework of experiences that you came from probably serves you very well.
Yes, I love that. That's a beautiful analogy. I like it.
Yeah, excellent. The other thing it says, the other thing right after that, just about right after that, she says, net can help us untie the strings that bind us in negativity and vices. So I'm sure that resonates highly with you.
Mhm. Yes, and I can see, since I've lived with some of those things and can know how it felt, with all those happenings, and see how people can get stuck into their vices, whether it be eating or lazy or drugs or whatever it be.
Yeah.
I can empathize. I may not, be able to sympathize exactly with them, but I am easier to sympathize with people and can help them see. I think that's what helps me help other women, is I can let them know, listen, it doesn't have to always be forever.
Right.
And
so there's a lower expression that BJ talks about here on the descriptive page, and we got a question here. Opportunities presented. Yeah, definitely, Michelle. Definitely, Michelle says the Mayan Cross website description of net seems to fit really well with the opportunities being presented by the astrological alignments and that condition. So I definitely agree, Michelle.
Mhm.
Happened with yesterday's full moon, yeah. So anybody, do you have any comments about that full moon yesterday? I personally got up very early in the morning and was fishing with my father on a really good salmon river here in Oregon. Didn't have any luck, but the moon was spectacular. It was just bright and amazing all night long. The moon was shining over the ocean and right into this room that I'm in. And it's just absolutely beautiful. So that was kind of my experience on it. Do you want to speak to that?
Oh, absolutely. The full moons always get me. I can't ever really sleep, so I'll go look at it. And it's been up in the morning here also, but it was still very light, even though I couldn't see it in the sky until it, right as the sun had already started coming up. But they're very strong. This one was very strong and beautiful. My kids, I know that sounds crazy, but my kids, I can always tell when the full moon is for sure because, sometimes it looks like it's full, but my kids always go crazy.
Really?
Yes, they always act just not crazy, but
The energy is just a little wackier, though. It's funny because I have really heard and then gone and Googled for stuff, and I've been slightly convinced that there is sometimes crime in areas, sometimes other types of weird energetic upswings or whatever around the full moon.
I think people's energy is just heightened, and then once any person gets any idea, everyone's just like, okay, so if it's a good idea, it could be for something good, and if it's a bad idea, then
yeah. I think you're right. Groupthink plays a huge role in it, but the energy swing, it makes sense because our bodies are 70% water. The moon has a tremendous effect on all water in the form of tides. I mean, I know that because we had to watch all the tides in the ocean reports and everything going fishing out here.
Right.
So it affects us, absolutely. And to that, we actually had some guests saying, please don't lose your thought and go back to the comment about the possible lower expression. And so I definitely think we should touch back on that, especially now talking about how energy is just energy. Expression is up to the individual and what they actually allow themselves to practically do or condition or train themselves to do ceremonially or something like that. So, BJ says the lower expression net can be high-strung, wired, and overly involved in other people's affairs. They may hang on to threads of relationships that have ceased being productive or fulfilling. They may hoard things and attach to material things in an unhealthy way. Do you have any experiences you'd like to share in those regards?
Oh, yeah. There's, it's easy to stay, like you said, in negative relationships and stuff. I will stay there until I know for sure that it's just dead in the ground. Friendships and otherwise, because I don't know if it's part of, I guess it'd be part of CAT, just I don't know if it's the wasting the time, feeling like wasting the time, even though I know it's not wasted. I just hate seeing the ending, I guess.
Yeah, I think, I have a little bit of that in me too, even though I'm a road. And I always thought about it that I want to just be sure that it's dead. I'm the type of person that wants to put whatever they can into it. And just know that when you are finally walking away from something and washing your hands with it, that it is as done and done and done. Like you have read the chapter in that book twice, and you're sure it's over.
Yeah, beat it into the ground and make sure it's not coming out.
I think when I was younger, though, if you would look at relationships, you could go back and forth into relationships, and that can be traumatic almost in its own way, or draining at least. And so, being older now, I think you just get wiser to it, and you just know how to beat that dead horse and be sure about the conclusions you've reached. And then after you make your moves, it just gets easier not to second guess yourself.
Right. And people, I think since CAT is very emotional, like our senses, how we because I pick up on people's energy more than what they say to me. Like Josh's mom is always my husband's mom is always very bright and like bubbly when she talks, but it's the things she doesn't say that I pick up on. And I don't know if it's part of that energy, but
well, people who are I would say, very conscious people, meaning more spiritually inclined and practicing in some way, shape, or form. They almost always do. It's like when you listen to music, are you feeling it, or are you listening to it word by word, trying to memorize it?
Right.
Same thing in a conversation or personal relationship. Your body is nothing but a sensory computer, a biological sensory computer, and you're taking in billions of bits of input. And really, at the highest sense, your soul is just trying to walk away and go, what was my sense? What was my feeling of that interaction, that transaction? And I think a lot of people can't really recall specifics of what's said, but they sure as heck can say, I kind of like that person, or they kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not sure I want to keep hanging with them.
Right. Yeah. And I've been learning when to stay away and really listening to those, because they more oftentimes than not they are right. My feelings whenever,
right,
without any real sensory input like words or actual knowing the people and what they've done. But yeah, just getting the overall, I don't really like that person. Staying away from them. Or drawing close to the ones that you do. So that's another thing too. What's difficult is I get nervous. My nerves come into play when I meet new people, and I'm always afraid that they're meeting me and talking to me to try to get one over on me somehow, and I have to get over those feelings.
Really?
But those feelings don't creep in until after I feel like a connection with someone. It's like I'm afraid to open up and connect with new people because
have you ever done like psychoanalysis on yourself and tried to say, did it come from this experience when I was younger, or maybe something I said about a past life resonates? Do you psychoanalyze yourself like that?
I do, and it could be. I think some of it may be past life, and some of it may be just. Well, my conception sign was the vulture. So that may be where some of that comes from this life, just paying that karmic.
Yeah.
From my childhood.
You said the sign you're coming from, your like sun sign or whatever.
Yes, in my Mayan Cross.
Right.
I have the conception sign, which is the vulture, which is actually my oldest brother's birth sign. And yeah, I think I do pay for some karmic something from either past life or this life, just coming back to get me now. Because it's just started since I've had kids and it's gotten older that I've started to feel that way. But,
interesting. Well, there's probably some protective mother instinct coming in there too.
Yeah, that could be too.
Yeah. I think that's only natural. So one of the guests actually mentioned that the webinar might have gone down for a few minutes, at least for them. If any of the guests would like to ask a question now, I think this would be another good time to maybe pause and see if anybody missed anything or wanted us to rehash anything. I'm going to try to unmute everyone. Everyone is unmuted. Feel free to toss something out if you want to. Maybe not. You want to talk specifically about health, or maybe even, I guess health, some more?
Yeah, as in regards to my sign or just in general?
General, or your friend, and you can relate it with personal stories, but anything, maybe if people are experiencing high stress or looking to kind of take better care of themselves in any way, spiritually or otherwise, any understanding or further knowledge or benefits that you've noticed and wanted to share?
Yeah. Like I've said before, I noticed how the signs of the day play out in the body as far as what they're related to. And I take that into consideration, like during the day. And I've always liked rocks and stones, and I definitely believe that crystals, carry their own energy. And part of our holistic, how I incorporate the two together is I've look at the positive and the negative energies of the day that might, not positive and negative, but, the high and low resonating energies of the day. And I'll try to guard myself with stones, like if I know, like particularly today is a difficult day for communication or where communication can be difficult, and I know I have to go speak somewhere or talk with someone about something serious, I'll take certain stones that will help with those energies. And you can find a lot of that information online, like
cool.
Which stones are good for communication or protection, or some are even helpful for, like, if someone has illnesses that they need to help take away, like Uva Ursi. If you carry Uva Ursi around for a long period of time, it'll help with like major illnesses that, terminal illnesses that you won't ever get rid of, but it will help your body assimilate its energies to help with whatever illness it is.
Yeah.
So I do that, and as far as nutrition goes, our family, we definitely feel better and can tell a difference mentally if we eat like whole foods, and that just helps out tremendously.
Right.
Just cognitively and feeling better. You feel lighter if you eat healthy whole foods that are from the earth, and
right.
It allows you to, if you feel lighter physically and mentally, it just helps you resonate on a higher frequency. And
I think there's
we
also
try to
something,
instill that in our kids.
Yeah, I think there's also something when you're walking a kind of more spiritual path and you start to get rid of the less spiritual entertainments, I guess you could say, of this world. There's an absolute energy impact where you start to just spend your day on calming, more holistic and healthy ideas, concepts, states of being, places, people, everything. It starts to really transform, and I think you're kind of talking right about it right now, where from stress reduction to just better personal care, it's really like people think it's sometimes like some profound thing to talk about becoming more conscious, like everyone has to be like Buddha and go spend years and years meditating under a tree, fasting. That's a great technique, and I'm sure it is going to be awesome for lots of people, but other people just need more in their day-to-day lives, and I think just taking one step in that direction, just by participating in these calls, by listening to the YouTubes, when you're having a bad day, by loading up a YouTube or exploring further content on the idea, just by immersing yourself in positive energy and spiritual energy, things like that, you can start to deprogram and decondition and unplug from the Hollywood entertainment-driven consumer producer state we find ourselves in.
Which is liberating, and it allows you to see how much you really don't need. And when you start taking each little yes that you say to something good or positive, you're saying no to something else. So if you decide to say yes to, and sometimes you have to have a deeper yes to say no. So if you want to treat yourself better or feel better,
absolutely,
you have to really decide what you want. And a lot of times, I know if I don't pay attention to something specifically, like the energy of the day or whatever, I don't think about it. If I don't read what the energy of the day is and kind of try to attune to it, then I'm just kind of lost and just kind of floating, and then it's easier to say yes to the things that may not be helping me grow.
Right, you get kind of, you float off back into the material world because the world as it is has so many ways to suck you into it or to take your time or your money or anything else. I've actually, to a point you just said, I've always kind of said to myself, choose less, have more.
Right.
In this day and age, if you can walk through Walmart or first of all, don't go to Walmart, go to some other local store. don't ever go there again. If you can go to the store and just buy what you absolutely need, and you're only buying it because you've actually put it off, and now you're certain that you need it, just that step, I think, would be so huge for Americans, because we are so conditioned to spend, and just don't find an answer on your own. Don't fix it yourself. Run out to the store or call somebody.
Right.
That is such a terrible position as an individual to live life that way, and then as a country to live it like that is just even worse. Anything bad in a microcosm is even worse usually in the macrocosm.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
So, it's interesting that you say that, and there really is, I think, something to the minimalist. I've always kind of labeled myself in a lot of regards as a minimalist. I just, it started as, leave no trace when you're out in nature. But it is really careened to say no to everything, especially in the internet world and other stuff, unless you know for sure that is the exact solution you need.
It's unnecessary. Yeah, my brother and I, we grew up in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and we would go on, we'd go camp for days. Like we'd pick a spot, and he'd drive and we'd park, and we'd just go and hike in the woods, and we'd just hike until it was dark, and we'd camp, and then we'd get up and hike, and we'd take, just our water and our food, and we had, backpacks, so you try to travel as light as you can. So right. I was definitely involved in the minimalist, and I definitely felt like I had wonderful spiritual experiences with having virtually, nothing, only the necessities.
Right. That's actually the most spiritual experience, and I know that, even my material life, when I was looking at what was going on in the world from the time I was graduating in 2002 to when I really got going with startups, about 5 years later, that whole time of transition, I was making an astoundingly small amount of money. Most people don't even believe how I was able to survive. And that was actually the fire fuel that created the circumstance that it made me hungry in a sense. If you have all your needs met, you're not going to really, there's no fire there. You're not going to really do anything. And so if you've got nothing, you got to really move and do something. And it's almost Mother Nature being, the necessity.
And moving out of your comfort zone. People have to
right.
move out of their comfort zone to grow.
Absolutely. And sometimes it really is a good thing to either symbolically lose it all or literally lose it all to let it all kind of rebuild, or to
right.
rebuild it how it is going to work better for you.
And I guess sometimes creation will make it happen if it needs to, huh?
Yeah, I think that's what happens. People run into kind of their own karmic time loop where they bump up against the wall where if they don't make a choice by a certain point, the choice is made for them. And generally it's always going to be up, but it's going to be more painful because they're trying to hold on to the anchor that's dragging them down, metaphorically speaking.
Right. It's like there's
cut the anchor line,
I think it's a Hopi Indian thing. The people, when the river's in the fast-flowing river, the people who are holding on to the sides are the ones that are going to get beat up. But if you just let go and follow the river and see who's around you, you can maneuver better.
Yep. You can even probably hop on a raft and enjoy the ride.
Right.
To that actually, I wanted to talk before we end up wrapping up a little bit. If you wanted to share about compatibility. I'm not married or anything, and I know that you are, and you have great kids and all that. And so, do you want to maybe talk about, and we'll leave off on this positive note because I'm sure that it is very positive, but in your relationship and your compatibility with your husband?
Yes, Josh is my soulmate.
That's what people need to hear. That's awesome. You should say that again.
A soulmate. He's my soulmate. When we met, we knew.
Tell us.
I was scared. I had seen my parents' relationships play out pretty poorly, and so I was really kind of nervous, but I had this feeling that I just knew that Josh was the one. And we, it was before we actually really knew each other and got together, but we ended up getting married. And I guess to borrow something from the Eastern world, we complete each other's yin and yang. Our duality matches.
Awesome.
Our Mayan Cross is the same. They intertwine. His masculine to feminine line is yellow, and his conception to his destiny is white, and mine's the opposite. So we just kind of overlap and match each other.
That's awesome.
And we don't see eye to eye on everything, which is fine. I think that makes us even stronger. But he helps me be decisive when I need to be, and he takes time to listen to me. And he uses
you really complement each other.
He uses his flintness, because he's the flint, to just cut away all my emotional crap that I put into everything.
Nice.
And he helps. He knows, and I think I can kind of do the same for him. Be like, oh wait, don't cut that out yet. You might need that.
Because he might be a little bit too active with his obsidian knife.
Sometimes, yeah. But and as far as complimenting each other, he's in my Mayan Cross. He's my masculine, and I can definitely see that he influences those aspects of myself, and I'm his feminine. So I just love that. It makes me feel good.
That is cool. I'm sure that a lot of people listening are going to feel real good hearing that, because that's what everybody's looking for in our mixed up, kind of confused material world. I think it's I think souls crave novelty and scarcity, and so if ignorance and craziness is in abundance, everyone's looking for that calmness and that peace of mind, because that's its opposite.
Yes, and that's very much how we are. I'm a crazy energy, and he can help calm me down sometimes.
Right.
And I can get him worked up, because he's sometimes too calm.
The total yin-yang effect. That's great. Well, maybe with that, we should leave it off one more time to the crowd here. It's been a pretty active chat room. If anyone wants to speak up and talk a little bit and share an experience of their own, or maybe ask myself or Jamie a question, they're free to do that now. Well, if nobody has anything, we may wrap up pretty close to on time today.
Yeah, sounds good.
Did you want to share anything else, Jamie, before we kind of move into the count?
I just thanks for listening to me and being a part. I appreciate it.
On behalf of everyone, you're very welcome, and thank you for coming on the show today and helping it move along and sharing your experiences with everyone. Again, like I said in the beginning of the show, there's a bunch of people logged in now, listening to it live, and a few hundred at least download it within a day or two once it's up on TalkShoe, and then a bunch more end up seeing it on YouTube over time, and so it'll be valued, highly valued by people. On behalf of everyone else, we all say thank you too for sharing what you shared.
Well, absolutely.
Well, all right. If there's no questions, then let's do the count. Did you want to do the honor, Jamie?
Sure, absolutely. Hun cat, keeb cat,
Cabe cat,
Oshib cat,
Oshib cat,
Kahib cat,
Kahib cat,
Boob cat,
Bod cat,
Wakib cat,
Wakib cat,
Wukub cat,
Boku cat,
Wakshakib cat,
Washakib cat,
Beleheb cat,
Beleheb cat,
Lahu cat,
Lahu cat,
Hulahu cat,
Hulahu cat,
Hablahu cat,
Hablahu cat,
Oshlahu cat.
and Oshlahu cat. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here today. The next one that'll be coming up, BJ will be back for that one, I'm presuming. Have not heard anything to the otherwise, and it will be on, I believe, September 17th. No, it's on the telewebcast page on mayancross.com/telewebcasts. So if you want to Google that or log into mayancross.com, you'll be able to find all the information there. And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you to everyone for being out there.